What's going on, wrestling fans? It is I, C-Fall. I am not in my usual studio, but I am here with 10 Count on Wrestling News Co. I'm talking to the #1 contender for NWA World Heavyweight Championship, taking on EC3 at NWA Samhain. It's Thom Latimer. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me, mate. I appreciate it.
Of course. And now, as we talked before, they don't sell shirts where you live?
Well, I mean, this I did go outside today and I was wearing my cut-up Jim Cornette t-shirt, and I turned around to Kaylee and I said, probably another day or two, I probably can't get away wearing this outside, but it's not. There's still like a couple of days left where I'm not going to catch a cold. So until that is, until it's utterly necessary, no, it's staying off.
Wow, you're like the guy in my town I live in who wears shorts in December, and I see him shoveling snow. He's wearing shorts. There I am, a hat, a gloves, scarf, muff, everything on to make sure I'm warm. And he's like sandals and shorts. But
he's probably Scottish, to be honest, because all my pals there, no matter the weather, I mean, it's cold. They're all in shorts too. It's no biggie, I've climatized a little bit, especially when I used to live in Florida. When I'd go anywhere slightly cooler, miserable.
Well, hopefully this interview is not going to be miserable, because we're talking about your huge matchup coming up. Before we get into your huge opportunity at NWA Samhain, I want to ask you a question that I love to ask some people. Where is the strangest place you've ever wrestled?
Oh, man. So I was supposed to wrestle there, but I ended up just doing the media instead. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was back in America. But doing media in Pakistan was different. And then I never got a chance to wrestle there, unfortunately, but that was weird. But probably when I first broke in, I was maybe, I don't know, 16 or something, 16, 17. And I wrestled at the Bulldog Bash, which in the UK was a Hell's Angels festival ran by the bikers, policed by the bikers. And then I think a couple of years after that, someone was shot and killed. And so they kiboshed it. But probably that, just because it was I'm a young boy anyway, and being around all these Hell's Angels, it was it was cool, but very bizarre, So on the top of my head, probably that, just because, like I said, I'm 16 doing a wrestling show in front of a bunch of lunatics. So, so I probably say that.
Well, sometimes when you perform wrestling in front of anybody, they are lunatics, because I love wrestling, and I'm a little bit lunatic myself when you're out there screaming, "Rip his face off!" just so you go in there. But that's amazing. What a crazy, that's a strange place. That is a strange place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure there was probably a couple of wrestling fans there, but I guess we were just some of the cheap bought-in entertainment to sort of pass the time in the day for them, because yeah, I couldn't. I don't know. I feel like the guy that was running it had some connections with it, and so probably just an easy payday for him. But I mean, yeah, they're all lovely, but definitely a bizarre place to be, especially because it was ran and policed by them, and so I just found that was particularly crazy that there could be such a wild event going on that the police weren't allowed into. It was policed by its own people. Obviously, it didn't last too long, but it was a cool idea.
It sounds like fun for the time that it existed. But heading into NWA Samhain, October 28th, you're getting opportunity to take on EC3 for the World Heavyweight Championship. We are in a new era of NWA where positivity seems to be flowing out of every part of NWA, and you've had so many ups and downs in your career. Heading into this matchup, though, is there a new level of spotlight you're feeling on yourself and your career? Even Camille, because it seems like with this new era of NWA, more people are getting different opportunities they maybe not have received before. How are you feeling about the spotlight being on you heading into this event?
I feel like it's about time. I understand why at first it might have been something that took a bit of time, but I feel like I've been, for the last 5 or so years, a very valuable valuable part of the NWA, and I've always done as I've asked. Always done as they've asked. I've tried to be the most upstanding citizen I can be there, and so I feel like it's time. It's time, and I feel like the last sort of year I've sort of not plodded along, but I feel like it's just like in pro wrestling. Not everything is. Sometimes you just got to be a bit of a bastard and do your own thing. And so I'm slowly starting to realize that is what it's going to take. I've been sort of a babyface, quote unquote, for the last sort of year and a half or something. And you do realize that being, good guys, what's the saying? Is it good guys? What's the saying, Steve? Good guys finish last.
Usually they finish last, yes.
Yeah, and I totally feel that. So I feel like it's time to not be such a good guy. So, but in regards to it, I'm ready. I've never been more ready. When it comes to who I am as a person, in and out of the ring, who I am as a performer, what I've been able to sort of do over the last 5 years is really prove my value and worth, because over the years it did diminish. And so I'm ready to step up to the plate. I want to be in those main events. I want to be in the title picture. And I have won the television championship, defended it 7 times in a row. And so now I get this opportunity. Some people can do it. Some people get the opportunities without having to sort of put in that graft. Not that I'm saying that EC3 did that, but again, everyone's journey is different. Look at, say, Nick Aldis right now in WWE. His journey there is different. My journey getting to the World Heavyweight Championship is different. And so it is what it is. But I'm ready to step up to the plate. I want to be that guy. I want to be the face of the company. And I'm sick and tired of waiting.
Yeah. Well, it makes complete sense because, again, I think this new era of NWA is giving more opportunity to other talented wrestlers who possibly maybe before didn't, like you said, you were doing your thing, you were doing what you were told. But in wrestling, if we've all learned anything about wrestling, you kind of gotta be a little, I don't know, deceivious, a little dirty sometimes, because it's a shark infested water. It's not like we're swimming with goldfish here. Each person wants to be the face of the company. Each person wants a championship. Each person wants the most money. Like, leveling up here at this event, October 28th against EC3, to me at least, with you and Camille as a combo, it feels like this combo is on fire right now. And how do you feel about that situation? Because for so long, like you said, you were doing what you were told. Well, now you're kind of doing what you want to do, and now you're selling in the World Championship. Like, this seems to be working out for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think tomorrow evening they air some footage of a little sit down get together that me and EC3 had a couple of weeks ago at one of his shows, that meeting, quote unquote, sort of puts you in my current head frame, because I'm not waiting any longer. And so yeah, I feel like having my wife there too, Camille, she obviously sees it. She obviously wants me to be the world heavyweight champion. She realizes that I deserve it, and she's been very vocal when it comes to that, and I've always sort of taken a back seat to it. But like I said, over the last year, with the way things have sort of played out and this and that, I've realized that I can't. Generally, I've always somehow been able to land on my feet, but I feel like it's got to that point now where I just have to go and take. And that was one of the parts of pro wrestling that I kind of always disliked. But unfortunately, it is what it is. And so that is, when it comes to the new era of the NWA and the new era of Thom Latimer, I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to take. I'm not going to ask I'm not going to ask, and I'll apologize after, because I feel like, looking at everything else and everything else has transpired, that's how you need to be. And if I'm forced and backed into that corner, not because I want to, but if I'm backed into that corner, then I have no option but to jump out and do my own thing, because that's kind of how I feel. I do feel like I'm sort of backed into a corner, and so I've tried to play ball. I've tried to do everything right. I've gone about things the right way, and it's got me here, but it's not got me where I should already be. Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, I'm just going to do what I'm good at, and that's not waiting, and that's beating people up and apologizing to the boss man after.
I love it so much. Now, NWA, Billy Corgan recently was on Busted Open announcing that NWA has two, not just one, two TV deals. Now, can you elaborate a little bit on this? Maybe you can't tell me where the actual networks are going to be, but at the same time, there was on Fight TV, then YouTube, and YouTube really anybody can make a YouTube channel. So trying to create a business opportunity for a lot of other wrestlers like yourself, the money is there, but it's not as much as you'd want from a TV deal. Where do you see NWA going after being allowed to be on? Billy Corgan said it's a top 20 network. So my brain, there are many, many, many networks out there, but top 20, that's pretty big for NWA and for the wrestling business in general. How are you feeling about all this? Because suddenly you're going to be in a lot more homes than you were before.
Yeah, I feel like when we first started NWA Power, great response, everything's going great. Of course, COVID affects everything and everybody, including the wrestling business. And then we never really. We didn't, when we got back in, it just felt like the foot had been taken off the gas, and we never quite got it back. And so then putting yourself behind paywalls and all sorts of things then could also hurt it, because you're trying to get viewers, you're trying to get people that don't already know. They're the people that you want, the people that have no idea that's going on. The most wrestling fans, you've got them generally, no matter what, but you want to target the bigger picture. And so being behind those not firewalls, paywalls, was also sort of I guess it was a necessary evil, but it also wasn't ideal. And so this jumping off YouTube and being with a network, I mean, that's the dream. That's what, as a wrestling company, and when you're in wrestling, you want to be part of. So I can't say who it is, but ultimately, I feel like this company, they're looking for that kind of stuff. I think they realize that there's a market for it, looking at AEW and WWE, and I think they want to get in on it. So with that being said, I think if we continue to elevate and make the product as good as it can be, and then have new fresh eyes on that, it should do great things for us. So I mean, it's all well and good getting a TV deal, but then the product needs to be good enough where people want to tune in and tell their friends and things like that. So I have all the faith in the world that give it time. Once it gets going, it'll be good. And so again, I wrestle. Like I get paid to fall on the floor a bunch. So when it comes to all that kind of stuff, it's over my head. I have no idea. But I can only presume and guess that it will be a good thing and something that we're all excited to participate in.
Oh man, I can't wait, because you brought up NWA when it first came back underneath Billy Corgan's umbrella, and you had the studio feel, and Thunder Rosa, and Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, LA Knight, all these other people were there, and then COVID happened, and obviously when COVID happens, money isn't flowing in as much. So contracts get changed up, people leave, people come, people go. And I brought up kind of how things have changed now, this TV deal. Hopefully it all can go back to the way it was.
Right.
But NWA hopefully keeps growing. But I do want to talk about something I discovered while doing a little research on you, that you are actually part of the first WWE incarnation of the Ascension. And this isn't just a one-person tag team. They had 5 people in this. Five people. Describe to me first how you got involved with the WWE, and then describe to me, how does the Ascension go from like a faction, and then you don't work anymore, and then to a tag team? How does it? Explain all that.
Man, well, I mean, getting there is a giant. It's a few hours in itself. But to sort of recap it, as soon as you decide you want to be a pro wrestler, the first place and the only place on your mind to go is WWE. So once I started training around 16 and started, on shows, 17, 18-year-olds, I had a tryout when I was 18. Wasn't ready for it. I think that a friend of mine got squashed on one of the heats when they were over in the UK. And so from 2005 to 2010, I was trying out. Now, it was a weird time because, I was, the first time I wrestled on TV for WWE. I was 18, and then every year, every time they would come to the UK twice a year, I'd be there trying out. So desperate to get signed, and I already felt like I was old and time was flying by, and Drew, Sheamus, Wade, all these other guys got signed, I didn't. So there's a whole 5 years of it of worrying that I was never going to get there. And then when I did finally get hired at 23 and got there when I was 24, I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't at 37 now. Now I am, but too much time has passed. But I mean, I do wish I had the brain in my head that I do now that when I was 24, but I didn't, and it is what it is. Everyone has their own strange journey in pro wrestling. So for me, it was I had to go there. I needed those couple of years in the UK, especially when I started. You didn't cut promos. There was no, quote unquote TV. You were doing wrestling. I mean, I was a pretend American. I'd come out with an American flag, born in the USA music, and it was different. Or there'd even be a lot of the shows that I do would have a fake Undertaker on there, a fake Sergeant Slaughter. I think I was like the Ultimate Warrior for a while.
Wait a minute. You were the fake Ultimate Warrior in the UK?
Well, I was called the Warrior Brandon T, but I did wear all the face paint and all that stuff, yeah. So, but for us, it was reps, and there wasn't anything else, really. And so, like, once I got to developmental, I needed that time to know where the hard cam was, to do all that, to make your TV ready. Some people don't. For example, my wife, Camille, she's, not been to WWE. She hasn't gone through that system, but I needed that system. Like, she's one of these cleverer people that kind of figure it out as they go. That wasn't me. I needed some structure and to be told what's what. And so when I got there, it wasn't like how it is now, where if you get signed to WWE now, they know who you are. They know you exist. Whereas when I got to FCW, it was like an island to itself. Like there'd be a couple of times where like Undertaker, Triple H, some of the writers, Michael Hayes, they'd all come down and they'd say, right, you in the ring, roll around, and they'd take a look at us like that. But other than that, I mean, if they were watching the stuff that was sent every week from the promos and the matches, we had no idea if anyone was watching it or not. I mean, it literally felt like we're in FCW, that's its own thing, and WWE is some other mountain miles and miles away. And so when it came, so when I first got there too, it was like, it's a culture shock. I still wasn't driving. Like, it was a big sort of adjustment period, even with the wrestling and everything like that. So after a certain amount of time, Dusty Rhodes ended up like, look, God bless Dusty, because he saw something in me. And then one day, I don't know why, I think we were all just cutting a promo. It was a promo class, and Dusty sort of got us all together. It was like me, Tito, Shaw, Connor. And then Ricardo Rodriguez. Ricardo sort of kind of came up with the sort of the rough idea for it, and then once Dusty saw it and realized he could turn it into something, then it became a thing. Once you could see something in it, and so that's kind of how we went on for a while. It's like there was 5 of us, and then Ricardo obviously was already on the road with Del Rio and had that own thing going, so they weren't going to invest any more time in him being in it. And then little by little, Tito then went up on the road to work with come on, Steve, help me out here.
I know everything,
Tito
but not
Colon,
that.
He's the other Cologne.
Oh, Epico?
Epico, yeah. No, Epico was Tito. And it was
his cousin.
Yeah.
Primo.
So those two went up together. It made sense. And then Shaw was doing her own thing for a while. And then it just became me and Ryan, me and Connor. And so that was awesome. We had a good run together. Everything was going sweet. And by that point, they'd gotten rid of the old NXT where you had to do like silly stunts and just a weirdness. Like, I was really happy that I managed to somehow avoid that section of NXT. Like, I think that they did have us try out for it, and even on Tough Enough we had to like audition for Tough Enough while we were under contract too. Luckily those two things never happened. But me and him had a good little time together, and then Ryan broke his back in a match that we had. I think he took some crazy bump over the top by mistake. I can't remember how it was now, but broke his back. So it was just me for a while. But that was also nice because they were protecting me. So I had a good sort of like long streak of beating people and getting more reps. You know, knowing that whether or not Ryan was with me or not, I could still carry the torch. And then when Ryan got back is when that new version of NXT started. And things were going really, really good then. So, you know, and then I still had my issues. And then I think I probably did that for about a year. And then we're supposed to, from what I heard, I don't know if it was true or not, go up after the Shield, or at least get the NXT tag titles and then go up. But unfortunately, I blew that. So it is what it is. But, you know, I'm close to Victor. And so Victor, they slotted him in my role. So at the same time, too, it's like, that's pro wrestling for you. It's like, you're not invincible. You're just not. You're 100% replaceable. And so as much as it was bad for me and meant that I'll never get my action figures and be on a video game, at least somebody else could. That's the best way I can look at it. It's like, at least because I feel like he might have not had much momentum. He was automatically slotted into that. And it is what it is. If someone's going to pay you a certain amount of money, if Billy turns to me tomorrow and says, right, Tom, I'm going to pay you $1 million a year or whatever to take a poop in the middle of the ring and roll around in it, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. You have to realize that, you know, it is what it is. You get told what to do, you do it. And so for me, it was like, well, at least he had, you know, at least those guys had a run and, you know, he got something out of it. You know, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, I put Ronnie Poop for a lot less than $1 million.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're.
Yeah, that's where you're going. Yeah.
The question was going to be, well, the British Bulldog got rock bottom in a pile of crap. So if the British Bulldog can do it,
exactly. Who am I, right?
yeah, if the British Bulldog can, even Hunter Hearst Helmsley, who's Triple H now, who's the head of the WWE Creative, he was in a pig farmer match with Henry O. Godwin back in '95. He rolled in pig shit, folks. So nobody is beneath rolling in crap. And I guarantee you, he wasn't paid $1 million.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for saving me on that quote there, Steve. I appreciate that.
I just want to make sure, because I have Billy's phone number and I could call him right now and say, Tom just told me he'd roll in pig shit. And he said he'd do it for less money than $1 million. So,
well, don't tell him that part.
No, the $1 million. We'll keep the $1 million part in, of course. Yeah. What was I thinking? Yeah. What was I thinking? It's great to see, though, you were happy to see the Ascension do what they did, because I am, at least for me, imagine when you're in the Ascension, you're doing well, you know, Connor breaks his back, you're still there, and then you don't work anymore, and then the Ascension, you know, gets called up to the main roster. So when you see that, what are you feeling? Are you feeling like, damn it, or like, well, at least I'm not being buried like they are on TV?
Well, this is it. They definitely weren't doing what we were doing. And me and Ryan, it's really weird, actually. Me and Ryan, like, we both, even though he was with WWE previously, we both got hired around the same time. So when they flew me, Martin Stone, and Rampage Brown to Pittsburgh to do our medical stuff. So it's the first time I'd gone to America. And Ryan was also going for his medical stuff too. So he was the first wrestler, sort of quote, American wrestler, quote unquote, that I met in America. He came down the elevator, this big giant man, and me, Rampage and Martin just sat there on a bench going, oh, bloody hell. Like, you know, if he's like all the rest of them, we're these tiny non-entities compared to these giant Americans. Anyway, Ryan then ended up, me and Ryan ended up sharing a hotel room that night. And funnily enough, had the same dream, which is really weird. It was like one of those stereotypical wrestler dreams where, like, Vince is in Gorilla yelling, your music's playing, get out. And we're both like struggling to get our boots on. Like, oh, no. So we both had that kind of dream, which is really weird. And then, you know, once I got to FCW and he'd, you know, finished doing that version of NXT, then we were sort of paired together. It was just really sort of, it was meant to be. It was just very weird when you think back all these things that sort of happened. It was almost like we were meant to be together. So I think it was very heartbreaking for him. I mean, he was there the night that it all went down. And so I feel like even though it has nothing to do with him, I think he's always felt like he bears some responsibility, which he doesn't. You know, we can only control ourselves, and you know, my actions are my actions. And so I can't remember when they went up. I was obviously happy for him because I want the guy to make money, whether it's our version of the Ascension or not. It doesn't matter. Like I want him to be happy. I want him to make money, and so and then just so having him do that was fine. But I don't really remember at what point that was happening. I feel like I was trying to do a little bit of acting and sort of getting up to grips with Florida independence and stuff like that. And I don't feel like it was that far along before I went to Impact. So it's kind of like my mind was then taken on dealing with what I was going to be going on with. You know, when you're in these other sorts of places, unless you randomly check in, you don't really know what's going on. You're sort of in your own bubble everywhere. So as far as I just know that I would have been happy for them. I just know that it probably, and I know it wasn't the version that Brian would have preferred. Not just take it away. I just meant the gimmick and everything else. Like kind of one of those weird things back then at NXT. It's like you spend all this time crafting this, and then when you get to the main roster, it's happened to some guys recently. They get there, and all of a sudden they're not doing what everyone thinks they're gonna or should be doing, and that's kind of weird for the fan too. I understand they want to put their mark on it, but if you've spent several years developmental being this, I don't understand that when you get to the main roster, they scrap that and you do something else. Like that small or big, whatever fan base you've already built in NXT, they're confused by it. They don't understand. So it's a bit of a disconnect. I know you want to reach the masses, but if there's already a bunch of people that knows who you are and what's going on, I don't understand why they change it. But I'm not. Again, that's not in my payroll. So
right, of course, I agree with you on that. For a lot, I felt like from the class you're talking about, like the Ascension and people like that, some got brought up and were not the people we saw in NXT. Other people like a Shinsuke Nakamura or a Finn Balor were brought up exactly the way they were presented on NXT television, so we could go, oh, okay, there they are. Sometimes people would change their names. Some people would change their gimmicks, the finishes, their music. It was like everything about them suddenly changed. But the Ascension came up. They were the most dominating tag team, Victor and Connor, in NXT. They were intimidating. People were afraid of them. They got to Raw and SmackDown. People made fun of them and called them jokes. And it was very confusing to me. Be like, why would you invest all this time to allow them to show up to only immediately bury them? Like that, I don't like to use the word bury, but they were buried. They were made fun of, called like LOD ripoffs. They were made fun of on commentary. Wrestlers made fun of them. It's like, bro, we're in wrestling, okay? We can appreciate character development or weird looks, because for about 25 years there was a guy who was dead wrestling and winning world championships. Well, what was he do? Why was a dead man here fighting for championships? But no one questioned that part. But I'm not comparing Undertaker to the Ascension, but a little bit of the same situation there. You brought up TNA though. Eventually you were in TNA, and you were paired with Nick Aldis right off the bat. Nick Aldis is doing amazing business right now. He was NWA champion for a long time. He was in Impact as Magnus, and now he's like the general manager of SmackDown. What's your relationship like with Nick Aldis in TNA? Did you know him beforehand, and do you still have any conversations with him now?
Yeah, Nick's our best friend. So I was best man at his wedding. He was best man at mine. He lives down the road. He's like 20 minutes away from me. So we see each other often. When we first started wrestling in the UK, once we both got on Brian Dixon's, God bless him, Brian Dixon's camps back in the day, like a lot of Americans used to come over back in the day, like Daniel Bryan and all sorts. And so back then, Brian was like the one. He was like a territory almost. Like you could spend 6-7 days a week wrestling for him. So when I was 18 and started wrestling for Brian, it was great because we were some days we wrestled twice a day, in a different place. And so it was kind of valuable to get all those reps under your belt. And it wasn't like you're doing it for the kids. It's got a level of cheerleader aspect to it. It's not like pro wrestling you watch on TV now. But it was good for us just to be on the road and get used to being away and sort of all the things that come with being a pro wrestler. And so we met when we both started for Brian. And so we were instantly, well, I wouldn't say instantly friends. I think we ended up bonding on a long car ride from one camp to another. The first day that we met, me and him were riding in the back of someone's car, and at first I didn't really like him. I thought, this guy's a bit of a dick. But then once I then figured him out, I went out, and then Nick is the one of the best people that I know. He'd take his shirt off his back instantly for me, and he has been very instrumental in sort of keeping me employed, as well as just being someone that I can lean on at all times. Like, he's very intelligent, and he's a guy that's got his shit together. And for a guy that didn't have his shit together for a long time, I needed someone like that, and still do. And so, jumping on to how Nick is now, I couldn't be any more proud. I'm absolutely over the moon, because he's a guy, and he, when I saw the thing that he did on SmackDown the other night, it's a no-brainer. I mean, everyone's journey is different, and he's taken a strange detour, weird route to get there. But like I was telling someone the other day, like, everyone's journey is different. I mean, I know some guys that started when I started, and only the last few years they've got signed. So, again, everyone's journey is different, and it takes as long as it takes. Once you give up, that's when you fucked it. Pardon my French. And so, I guess for me, it's like, man, WWE, maybe they did, but it's like, they should have known this from day one. They instantly, when he was on my TV screen, he's a guy that belongs. He is a star. He's a guy that you can put in any situation, give any role, and he will knock it out of the park. So I'm very excited to see what comes of this and how he grows and develops in the role that he's got now. So, but again, Nick also helped me. He helped get me into TNA. He obviously didn't, he helped at least open the door, and then I had to prove my worth once I got there. But again, it was like that with the NWA too. Now, I'd already had a relationship and met Billy when he was working at Impact. So, but again, by the time I came back to the States, because I'd gone away for a bit, when I came back, Nick was obviously there, and then it was I'd already built a relationship with Billy, so it was kind of a no-brainer to come in. So, but he's someone that, like I said, he's one of the best people that I know.
That's great to hear, that he's such a kind person and always a good friend to help you whenever you need it, because in life we always need friends like that. But are you aware that while you were in TNA, Impact Wrestling, there's a meme involving you? Bram has just re-signed with TNA. That kept popping up every few months. Oh, Bram, he signed a new contract. Bram this, Bram that. What the hell was that? Were you negotiating while working there, or they just keep forgetting that you already signed and this was just turning into a meme, because it turned into one and people still talk about it?
Yeah, it's weird, right? I don't really know. I feel like when I first got signed, they made an announcement with it. I think I had a picture with John Big. And then back then there was a lot of changing of guards. I think when I first got there, we were on Spike TV maybe for another 6 months or something like that, which was cool. There was a lot more eyes on the product then. And then there'd be a new changing of guards, or we'd swap to a different TV day, or we'd swap to a different TV network. And so almost that became a weird parody of itself. Like, you've got to be consistent in pro wrestling, and sort of, you can't, everything needs to have a beginning, finish, and end, and some consistency. Because if you're constantly yo-yoing what network it's on, where all that kind of stuff, people get confused and they kind of get pissed off and don't want to participate anymore. And so I feel like maybe there was some of that when it came to that. Like, I did restructure a couple of contracts, but I almost feel like it probably happened once or twice, and then it just became a joke then, and then before and then it just bred life into itself and got carried away. So I can only presume that's what it is. I don't really know.
That's why we're here. We're trying to figure out, why the hell did they keep announcing that you re-signed?
Maybe they did figure. I don't know, but I feel like, I also think that they liked constantly sort of putting out that kind of stuff to sort of draw eyes to it. Not necessarily that'd be a good thing. So they like saying surprises and this and that, and sort of keep trying to create some buzz, whether it be a contract thing or not. So I just think that it probably just got a bit silly, and then it got worse because people picked up on it.
Yes, it certainly did. You can still type that in on Google right now and find all the announcements, and go to Reddit, and there's a whole post about it too. It's hilarious. So it still exists in the world that we're living in right now. But also in your amazing career so far, you've wrestled Jeff Hardy, LA Knight, Drew McIntyre, all these household names. Is there someone that you were in a company with or in a company with now that you said, just put me in the ring with that person, we'll have a banger of a match, but it didn't happen? Is there someone on that list?
Well, I did the privilege of sort of wrestling like Roman Reigns in developmental, like a lot of the guys that are on TV, Bray. A lot of the guys that are on TV now already had the privilege of wrestling with before all that. And so, if I was to look at, say, the NWA roster, I'd say guys like, and I recently wrestled him, so I can't really say him, but Thrill Billy, like Thrill Billy's a superstar in the making. Kerry Morton, Colby Carino. I've not wrestled those two. I know they're smaller guys, but they're really, really good, really talented. But no, I maybe a blast from the past. Shawn Michaels. I was always a big Shawn Michaels fan. Jeff Hardy was the reason why I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and so Shawn was it until Jeff Hardy kind of came on the scene, and I was drawn to those two guys. And don't get me wrong, as time went on and I realized that there was more than just these handful of people, then, your Dynamite Kids and everything else, Marufuji, guys like that. But I always loved the way that Shawn Michaels and Jeff Hardy would sell. Like that was the thing that really drew me in. I just loved the way that Shawn made whoever he was wrestling. I wasn't watching the guy, which is kind of how it is now. Like people watch the guys doing their moves. Like, I want to see how they take it and how they sell. And so I was always drawn to the way that Shawn would throw himself around and just, look like he was being thrown out of a moving vehicle. And the same with Jeff. And that's what I loved that part of the wrestling. I mean, that's what really drew me in, which is, I'm sure, kind of weird to people, but selling is just something that I've always enjoyed to do and to watch. And I guess it's sort of like something that isn't really like, it's super important and very, but that's what we're doing. We're selling what we're doing. And just somewhere down the line that kind of got lost. But again, why I was the biggest Jeff Hardy and Shawn Michaels fan was just the way that they made getting beaten up look so cool. I was watching them. I wasn't watching I wasn't watching them take a chokeslam. I was watching the way that Shawn would jump up and sell it.
Of course. And you did bring up the tribal chief Roman Reigns for a minute. You said you wrestled him when you first got into the WWE. Now, at the time when you were wrestling him, did you see what the rest of the world is seeing now and seeing the most like dominant WWE superstar in the past? It feels like 50 years.
Yeah, I feel like one of my first matches was again me and Rampage. Martin, the three of us got signed together, and Martin ended up blowing out his knee, or his knee was bad, or something like that. Anyway, he didn't come for about a year later. He had to go get it sorted out before they'd hire him. And so me and Ollie were paired together, and we tagged for the first sort of 6 months. And I feel like one of the first days it was like a double shot. We got beaten up by these two giants. I think one of them used to be TJ. Tyson Kidd's like bodyguard. He was around for a hot minute. And some other dudes. We got beaten up by them in like a buddy's car park and a show that was being run there, like a furniture shop out in the car park. And then we did a show the same night, I think, at an armory somewhere. And it was me and Ollie, me and Rampage versus Roman and Woods. And there've been lots of other times when I got in there with Joe too. But instant stood. He didn't look how he did back then. He was still a bit podgy, and he didn't look like he does now. But yeah, instantly you just knew. He just oozes it, and you can't really train for it. You can't really. You can kind of find it, but you just need to have it. And he just has it. Like, no matter what he's doing, he just has it. And so, yeah, especially once NXT started, because they had him like cutting these promos, like being some sort of rich dude with, nice watches and all this kind of like an arrogant thing. I mean, he just oozed charisma and superstar then. And I feel like maybe they gave him 1 or 2 matches on SmackDown, but they went, no, we're going to save this guy and use him elsewhere. And that's pretty much what they did. Same with Moxley too. Seth, though, who was a workhorse there, because I mean, he did a lot of, he was on every show having 20-30 minute matches, and the guy's already had a fair few years in Ring of Honor doing that kind of style, and he's still doing that in developmental one. There's like 12 people watching, and so and he'd still have to paper the towns and sort of do all the grunt work that sort of you had to do when you first came to developmental. So Seth was the NXT champion, and then finally they got into the Shield. So like Seth really busted his ass to be able to, not that he needed to because he was a star, but I mean he really worked hard to prove his worth. Not that he needed to, but I mean like he was like the guy that could lean on for everything. So yeah, but no, I mean, yeah, totally, just instantly ooze star and someone that, and I just like being around him too. Like he was a cool guy, no ego, ex-football guy. And I don't know how long he'd been there once I got there, but he was already pretty good then. So
he's doing pretty good now, I guess.
Yeah, no, he's just a guy that was meant for it. I mean, just looking at him, you go, yeah, he's the guy.
Well, man. Well, on October 28th, you could become the guy defeating EC3 for the championship on pay-per-view. If no one has ever watched NWA, if no one has tuned in to watch this new era of NWA, give us the pitch. Give us the description. What can fans expect from NWA Samhain on October 28th?
I think that if you're a old school wrestling kind of guy, which I am, I wasn't when I first started watching pro wrestling by any means. Like, I loved your Ring of Honor style matches and crazy car crash stuff. But I feel like if you liked the older stuff, if you like things that are more digestible, just more old school wrestling, then NWA is probably where you want to be at. Again, it's a new era, so I don't really know what that entails in regards to how the approach to the wrestling will go moving forward. I can only presume that it's going to still stay on the line of tradition and harping back to the past, but making what was past new. And so I feel like, at least when it comes to the main event, I've got a lot to prove, meaning that it's a situation that I find myself in that I feel like I should have found myself in years ago. Again, everyone's journey is different. When it comes to saying there's going to be a new era of the NWA, there's also going to be a new era of me too. Like, I'm tired of sitting back and just, I've just got to do what I need and want to do and accomplish what I feel I am justified in doing and deserve. And so for me, the main event, regardless of what might take place, I'm going to knock out the park. I'm going to beat the absolute dog shit out of him. And he's going to pray and wish that he was never put in the ring with me.
Well, with all due respect, that's compliment sandwich there. Well, EC3, it seems like you have your hands filled on October 28th when NWA goes live on pay-per-view. I am so pumped. This new era of NWA. I cannot wait to find out what TV deals are being developed, but it has been a pleasure talking to the number one contender for NWA World Heavyweight Championship, Thom Latimer. Thank you so much for being here on Tanko on Wrestling News Co. I've been Steve Fall. He's going to be the future NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.